Welcome. I'm Russ Rapp, and this is my YouTube channel, where going forward I'm going to be talking about the topic of awakening. I have focused a lot in the past on non-duality, so feel free to check out those videos, but as of this point moving forward, awakening is the focus. So I wanted to start out in this video with a conversation from the Matrix series of films. And there's a lot of good stuff to unpack from those movies. But the one I wanted to focus on in this video is from the third installment, Matrix Revolutions, where Neo goes to visit the Oracle for the third time. Or no, maybe fourth time. And at her apartment and asks her a bunch of questions. They start talking about, the situation, and Neo begins to ask Oracle, and I'm going to paraphrase, why didn't you tell me about this? Why didn't you tell me about that? And it starts asking all these questions to the Oracle, and her reply was, because you weren't ready. Which I'm assuming Neo was annoyed from this response. And his reply to the Oracle was, well, who decides when I'm ready? And the Oracle says, you know who. And so the what I'm going to talk about in this video is this idea of being open to new experiences, being open to awakening, to change, and having eyes to see and ears to hear. So it's easy to kind of stick your head in the sand and pretend things aren't happening when they're happening. And there's a lot of reasons for that from a psychological standpoint, cultural standpoint. And in preparation for this video, I've probably come up with 100 different points of things that I wanted to relay to you in this video. And full disclosure, other than the setup recording, this is my first run at this video, my one and only. So in a sense, it's live, even though this is pre-recorded. But it's unscripted. Obviously, there's some prep work in laying out my thoughts internally, but as far as really relaying this message, when it comes to awakening, the message won't be for everyone. There will be people that will hear this message and won't understand it or won't connect with it, and that's fine. I mean, everyone's on their own journey, on their own point in the path, so that's not a requirement. And the difficulty is trying to cram all these different points into one video and keep it relatively short because of people's attention spans. And the other hard part is I don't know where you are in your journey, so I don't know really how to focus the conversation because essentially this is a monologue. You are hearing what I'm presenting on your end, and you're interpreting it in whatever way that you are creating the meaning from what I'm saying. And so that's the difficult part in any of these conversations where I'm relaying a message and you will hear what you want to hear. So that falls in line with the topic of the video for those with eyes to see, is a lot of stuff that happens even on a daily basis or in your own personal sphere of experience or in the world around you through online interactions, media that is constantly bombarding you with messaging, is that you're going to filter it through your own lens, through your own worldview, your own state of mind at the time, and so you're going to miss a lot of different pieces. And so when it comes to awakening, it's easy, if you're coming to this video because you're interested in the topic, and you don't just want to put it on the big screen to try to embarrass me. If you're familiar with me on a personal level, but if you're coming to this with an intention of trying to understand awakening or trying to deepen your awakening, I think the tough part is really trying to get out of your own way, essentially. And it's easy to look at other people and say, well, that person clearly isn't awake or doesn't know what's going on. But that's easy to say and to think, but to really know other circumstances or what the internal workings of another human being is can be difficult. Intuition can help, but you may experience situations where what you're saying is not received on the other end from someone. It just kind of goes over their head. Like if you're planning a picnic with your friend and you're a meteorologist or you follow meteorology websites and you look at the weather and you say, okay, there's clearly a storm rolling in, maybe we should postpone, do a little rain check on the picnic at the beach, let's say, and you say, because it's going to rain, and your friend just disregards what you're saying and talks about what kind of sandwiches you want to bring or what kind of drinks, how long should we stay, should we go swimming, should we not, should we bring something to read, or how about we should bring a stereo or something to play some music, because that would be quite fun. And throughout the day you're telling this person, or throughout the morning you're telling this person, well, it's going to rain this afternoon, it's going to rain, and they just continually don't hear you until you get to the beach and you see the storm clouds rolling in, and all of a sudden you start getting wet and it rains on you. And it's like one of those situations where you wish you would have been able to have it on a sunny day. You wish your friend would have listened, but at the time the rain is here, the storm has arrived, and you're getting wet, and that's the reality of the situation. But sometimes when it comes to awakening, that may be analogous of how you were feeling in the situation. Because people, I think it's easy for people to want to focus on the bread and circuses, the distractions, the TikTok, what's the right word? Mental trap of TikTok, the whatever. I shouldn't bash on TikTok, but it is what it is. But like whether it's you're into sports, you're into music, or things that maybe something that's beneficial for you, but also can end up in a lot of cases being a distraction. Living a life on a superficial level that maybe isn't conducive to deepening your awareness of who you are, or who you are in relation to others, or what's happening in the world around you. And so that's where, if you come in this video, it's easy to kind of point fingers at other people, but really this journey, I think, is an individual one in a lot of ways at this point for people, where we're kind of like teenagers who've got to the point where we think we have learned a lot, we know certain things, we have some insight, but we really haven't gone out and experienced life, and we maybe have this illusion of invincibility, like many people have when they are of that age, where nothing's going to happen to me. If something bad happens, it's to the other person, and that sort of thing. And so we're kind of shifting out of that mindset into kind of taking more ownership of our own lives. But I think the key is, because we're already almost up to 10 minutes, and like I said, I could make this substantially longer, is you're not going to find all the answers in one YouTube video. I think the key is to keep asking questions. Like I mentioned in my previous video, Russ Rapp Awakening, is that the world events of 9/11 was something that I really deeply affected me, and I started asking the question why. So trying to find the meaning of the world around you, of your own personal situation, is kind of a first step to understanding, to, you know, the cliche of peeling back the onion. There's all these layers of conditioning, programming that we are immersed in as we grow and develop, and I think reaching the stage of the process of human development as an individual is seeing those things that have been built around you, and seeing through them and understanding their purpose or lack thereof, and trying to decide, you know, make the decision of is this the life that I want to live. And when it comes to asking those questions, I think that is key. Oftentimes in conversation, people don't ask the right questions. They want to stay on the surface because it can be painful. The awakening process can be something that can be difficult because it brings up things that maybe you want to avoid, that you don't want to take a look at on a personal level, or, you know, in the environment around you. And it's tough holding up the mirror and saying, wow, that's the situation I'm in. And questioning your beliefs, questioning the things that you hold dear as far as the foundation of your worldview. When that gets questioned, that can be earth-shattering, because it kind of feels like death. It feels like you're losing something of yourself. And that's where people don't like that, because that makes them uncomfortable. But if you don't dig deep and look into that, then there can be consequences that maybe you would want to avoid as well. So it's kind of a catch-22 if you try to avoid it because you want to stay in a comfortable place. Life has a way of correcting that and making you uncomfortable regardless, and kind of forcing you to look at that. And so that's a lot of time when it comes to awakening, growth, change like this. There are painful moments. There are dark nights of the soul. There are challenges, and that kind of comes with the territory. I think sometimes that can be avoided if you heed the call, if you hear the message, and you act accordingly, and avoid the pitfalls of trying to stick your head back in the sand, if you will. So when it comes to, you know, this process of awakening and being open to seeing things around you, it's questioning your beliefs, but your teachers are really oftentimes the ones in your inner circle, in your peer group, people at work, all those situations that you find yourself in. Those situations and people can be teachers for you. So that's a big key. And then the next part of it would be, you know, I think a lot of this for me reflects on my temperament or personality of a little bit of like OCD tendencies of getting stuck on things. So oftentimes people can get stuck on things that maybe aren't beneficial, but it can also be, you know, it's like a blessing and a curse. It can also be something where you have tenacity, you have perseverance to see something to the end and continue to learn and continue to dig deeper, peel back the onion, the layers, and that can be beneficial because oftentimes people want to stay on the surface and they only go so far, and they only go so far down the rabbit hole or into learning about themselves, questioning their beliefs only so far, and then they bump up against resistance and then they stop. So I think another key to that is to continue pushing forward, holding the line, and continue pushing in the direction of growth and not giving up, not giving in, not backing down. And even though it can be painful, I think the result in the end is maybe something you would be find peace and satisfaction in. And the other thing I wanted to mention real quick that goes along with what I just said is there's the idea of continuing to dig deeper, uncovering as many rocks as you can to see what's underneath. But a lot of it is a long game. So oftentimes I think people have a short-sighted view of life and just worry about the next day or the next week or the next fix, if you will, the next fun thing, or Friday night, the weekends here. You go through the Monday through Fridays and you get to the weekend, you're like, this is what I was looking for, and then it's Monday again. It's always going to be Monday again. So there's this idea of the long game would be to understand that this awakening is a process. It's not like non-duality, where the truth of non-duality is not a state or a stage, even though sometimes people describe it that way. People come to non-duality through the process of awakening, through this unraveling, if you will, of the ego, of the separate self. And so it may seem that there is a process involved, but that is just part of your process. So non-duality has nothing to do with that and everything to do with that. But when it comes to awakening, the long game is to realize that you're never going to be quite done. It's never going to be finished process. It's always going to be a work in progress. And so continuing to dig deeper, to dig in and move forward is the key to that. Because we're at the stage, I think, on a societal, cultural level where we are in a transitional process as a whole, as a collective, and the individual is mirrored in the collective, and if you will. So there's a lot of similarities, but I could belabor this point for a very long time and maybe lose you in the process. But just know that culturally things are shifting. They've been shifting for a handful of decades, especially into kind of a center of gravity that's a little bit different than before. And so it's very hyper individual. It's taking this idea of information and tying it all together. It's almost like an intuitive understanding of our situation. But with every change, with every development, there's always the risk of another cliche. I'll give you one more here in this video, is throwing the baby out with the bathwater, wherever that phrase came in. But the idea that this next phase is the best, everything else before that is junk, and we just got to get rid of all that, and we're the best, and this is the phase that is the end all be all. And so then with that ends up kind of destroying things that have come before. And because if you follow Ken Wilber, he talks a lot about transcending and including. And the thing I will say to this point, just to keep it nice and concise, is that if you read Ken Wilber's book called Boomeritis, so like baby boomers, boomeritis, I think it's such a wonderful book. It's been many years since I've read it, so I can't really speak on it specifically, but it takes a lot of his concepts and ideas and puts it in a story form, and I think it's very powerful. It's kind of like on the line of like Animal Farm, George Orwell, that kind of thing. But I don't know if it'll ever get the the acknowledgement that it deserves. But it really is. It really hits the heart of kind of this period that we're in human development. So check out Boomeritis. There's a plug for you for Ken Wilber if you want to check out that stuff. So. Okay, so we're almost to 20 minutes. I wanted to keep this short, but I think I got most of the stuff I wanted to get into this video. The other last thing, and this is a point to all those that are continually watching this video up until the 20-minute mark, is that oftentimes we look for the best method or the top 5 ways and all this stuff. We want to have the answers right now. But when it comes to awakening, it's a process. And so, maybe there's something I say at the end of this video that really would have hit home with you, but if you quit after 2 minutes, never gave it the time of day for whatever reason, you'll never see that. So you got to stick with it, watch it till the end, play the game till the end, and then see how it goes. So I will conclude with a some verses from the Bible that I think are very on point with what we're talking about here as far as having eyes to see and ears to hear. It is Matthew chapter 13, verse 13 through 17. So Jesus is talking about why he speaks in parables. And so it's Matthew chapter 13, verse 13 through 17. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing but never understanding. You will be ever seeing but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their eyes, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and in turn I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For I tell you the truth, many prophets and righteous men longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. The word of the Lord. And I will end with this. When it comes to awakening, understanding, the choice to know will be yours.